All right. Happy Tuesday, everyone. My name is 12 Gauge. If this is your first time to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by and checking it out. If you've been here before, thank you for continuing to come and check out the channel and see exactly what Gage has in store for you. You know, I was thinking a little bit, surprise, surprise, right? I was thinking a little bit about the parents of the Idaho 4, right? I know I wasn't going to, I'm not going to mention the case. I just want to talk about the parents. Okay. So that's not mentioning the case. Hey, Kim, do you and Carlos want to come up? Because I'd like some company today. If so, I'm going to drop the link. And if you guys want to come up or anybody want to come up and talk with me, you're more than welcome to. Um, there we go. I don't know why you can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it loud enough now? That's cool. I don't mind. Okay, cool. Um, I want to talk about something that has been eating at me, and I have this in my emails. I don't know if y'all remember this from Kara. It says, "Shakes my head. Like I said, though, I find it very interesting how BK's professor or anyone who hung out with and spoke to my daughter and her friends that night have not said hardly a peep. Not even something like, hey, yeah, I was at that bar and saw Kaylee and Maddie, spoke with them. Nothing. Or, hey, yeah, Ethan and Xana were at the Sigma Chi party. Ethan got into a bit of a scuffle with Loach, but Xana broke it up. No big deal, nothing. Yeah, and I know what happened because she happened to talk to her father that night when they left the party. I'm not saying that had anything to do with anything. That's why I want to know more about it, though. There's a whole lot that could be said and explained and therefore help answer questions. What are if BK did not act alone? What if BK did not act alone? What if he was paid by someone to do it? What if he's innocent and someone did it? There are still a whole lot of questions and not really enough answers. We simply do not know. I do not know, you do not know, and at the moment, none of us do. Since when do we just not thoroughly investigate a crime, much less one so horrid as this one? If you cannot see the logic in that, then I'm sorry, and I pray to God nothing like this would happen to your own child. This was my daughter, though. I want no stone left unturned. I'm going to make sure it won't be. I would hope we all would be on the same page. I was reading that and I was thinking to myself, as a mother, and she was writing that, does she have any insight that the rest of the country or the rest of the people in this community have? No. She was asking questions. She was asking questions. Just like last night when I was showing the the video of the true crime about Raul Mesa, it got me to thinking how the families must feel knowing very little, even if everybody assumes, or most people assume, that certain people have knowledge that other people don't have. I believe that Maddie's father, when they did that interview at, I think it was Starbucks, and he was talking about his daughter and reminiscing about her, how special it was for him to be her dad, and how much he was proud of her for taking the step that she had taken in her life. You know, it's interesting to me how the Chapins, how the mom memorialized Ethan by writing a book. By writing a book. And they had a tulip dedicated to him. Um, and just the sincerity that they have. I'm going to change this background. It's making me dizzy. I don't know why. It's just tripping me out for some reason. But whenever you're faced with being affected by a criminal act, do we ever know how to act accordingly? You've seen, um, I think her last name was Soto, the pregnant lady that got killed with the baby inside of her, that it was a drug deal gone wrong or whatever. You've seen the Kylie Rodney case. You've seen Jodi Arias. You've seen Casey Anthony. You've seen the Watts case. You've seen the Peterson case. You've seen all kinds of cases, and we get fixated on the crime itself, how it happened. But I believe we never really think about the families. How are these families coping? How are they coping through all the trauma, through all the speculation, through everything that they've heard about their family members? How are they coping? It's like a magic trick. The more that you focus on these things, you don't have to focus on the reality that's really going on. And sometimes the reality, it's hard to take for some of these families. The younger the victim, the harder I would imagine it would be hard for the families to take. Heather, you want to come up? I'll put the link in the chat if you want to come up and talk with me. I'm just talking about true crime and families. Um, like Kylie Rodney. She was 16. No, yeah, she was 16 years old. Yeah, I can imagine. 16 years old, and she was found deceased in a lake. You know, How would you ever get by knowing that your 16-year-old daughter died in a lake mysteriously? And then you have all these people speculating it. You have all these people talking about your family, talking about your daughter. And then you start to hear all the speculation to go on with who could have done it, why it was done. The Sebastian Rogers case. We haven't found out one way or the other about him, but think of all the speculation that happened with that case. Who was on the front line? The parents, both sets of parents. They were on the front line and they had to answer a lot of tough questions. It's almost like on here, if you look a certain way or you act a certain way, what are they hiding? You know, it just, I think her name's Katie, right? Sebastian's mom. I feel so bad for her because, the woman was obviously going through a lot of issues at the time. Having a camera thrust in her face and having people say, "Oh my God, she's emotionless. She must not miss her child." I'm not going to cuss tonight like last night. I guess I offended some people and they unsubbed me, which is what I figured. But can you imagine being the mother of a 15-year-old that went missing? All you heard was a thud, and then you wake up the next morning and he's gone. No, no idea where he's at. And the world that you knew it is no more. All of a sudden, your world is turned upside down. All of a sudden, you're public enemy number one. I want to play this too because it has nothing to do with the families, but this interview really just, it always baffled me. Let's hear it.
Things bad. She called me and asked me about the murders. Um, I didn't know where she was going with it until she said that it was Brian Koberger, and naturally, I freaked out and called about 8 of my friends. My brother was really good friends with him. My other friend Brandon was really good friends with him. I'm gonna have a picture of him with him on the green screen as well. I'm shaking still, but anyway, let me show you. This is back. This is Brandon, the one I was just talking about. That's his wife, Brianna. That's me. This is back in 2017. Obviously, that's Brian. Still has the dead face that it's the eyes. I don't know. But when I spoke to him back in 2017, he was clean. He was a heavy heroin user back in high school, and it was just nice to see the kid clean up. And at that time, he said he was doing security detail. I believe it was out of school, is what he told me. Um, but he seemed like he was better. Obviously, that wasn't true. Here's another picture from a party that we had at Brandon's house. That's Brian there. He used to be a bigger kid as well. But again, that's him. And then at the same wedding, I'm here, but he's back there. He was sitting at the same table as me and my mother. But he is back there enjoying a drink. I was sitting right next to him. We talked. He seemed fine. My mom sent me the old school yearbook. That was him. Brian Koberger, that's him. He went to Pleasant Valley, graduated with, I think, my friend Christopher, a year younger than me. This is when he nonchalantly decided to make me drive him around the Poconos for heroin, and I had no idea. I thought I was just doing a nice deed because he needed something, and it turns out that he was getting heroin. Sorry, I'm like My voice is shaking. I might make a part two. I probably have to. I don't have a 6 minute feature. I only have a 3 minute feature. I also talk really fast, so I'm sorry.
We know a lot of people that talk really fast. I had one in my chat last night that was wondering about some of the things that I had going on in my life. It's funny how people think they're entitled to come into your chat and just ask you anything, like, they're entitled to know everybody's business. That person is just sketch to me. And if you come in here again today, I'll tell you right to your face when you start chatting. I'll tell you, you're sketch. You've always been sketch. Ever since you opened your mouth and started spewing that Ethan got hit over the head with a wrench by a plumber, that has been sketch. I haven't believed a thing after that. After that. Yeah, sus you're right. But that interview right there was obviously a friend of Brian's. Think of, can you imagine? Have any of you ever had a family member? Like I said, I'm not going to talk about the case. I might talk about people, but I'm not going to talk about the case. Have you ever have an individual in your family be addicted to any kind of chemicals? Drug addict, alcoholic, shopaholic, gambler, sex addiction, anything like that. If you have, you understand what type of pull that has on the family. So since we're talking about Brian, let's talk about his heroin addiction because he was an addict. That has been stated, been proven by multiple people over and over and over that he was addicted to heroin. And I think later on in life, it might have been cocaine a little bit. I'm not for certain on that one, but I know heroin has been mentioned more than once. So, so in 2017, whenever she was talking about that wedding that she attended and he attended, he had obviously lost a lot of weight. Lost a lot of weight. You know, and she said he looked really good and that he had cleaned his life up. So, an assumption, this is what I'm saying, assumption, because I don't know the man. The assumption would be that he went to rehab and got clean and started to get his life in order. But what I was saying before that, if you've ever, exactly, Firefly, always wondered that too, because that could have assisted in his recovery, no doubt. Suboxone, I know Suboxone came on really strong in probably 2008 or so. But what I was saying as far as his family, having a family member addicted to chemicals, your trust in that person is not like it was before they started lying to you, manipulating you, gaslighting you, exhibiting behaviors that are unbecoming of the person that you used to know before the chemical use. And think about it. He did. Hey, Truth, how you doing? And he did. You know, lose that weight. Supposedly, he started changing his diet. And he started boxing. And it's been stated by people that have known him that he was a runner. So he would have lost that weight, with that change of lifestyle, of course. But once the addiction changes the mental capacity of a person, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you and anybody who's ever had a family member that's affected them by using chemicals, are they ever the same after they get off the drugs, especially heavy drug usage? Are they ever the same? I know the answer, but like I said, I'm asking you. Yeah, he lost the weight and supposedly had a tummy tuck and was really into his diet and those things. So I'm asking you guys a question. Do you think that his mind would have been changed? His chemical composition? Anybody that's been affected by drugs, alcohol, pills, anything like that. Because it is a traumatic experience going through those withdrawals if you have them, being dope sick, the chemical composition of change that occurs whenever you start to use chemicals more frequently. Do you believe, and even though he was sober, this might have changed his mindset where the Brian that used to be before drugs, the other guy that came out sober, wasn't the Brian that the family remembered? What do y'all think? Truth, you want to come up on panel? I need somebody to talk to. I mean, I've been up here doing this by myself for a couple lives. I want to bounce some stuff off somebody. You want to come up here? You know, I know the answer to that, and the answer is yes. Yes, it does. It does change you. So, just like what she just said, he was emotionally decreased before the drugs. So, after being a drug addict, we often wonder what came out on the other side. Which Brian came out the other side? Did the family recognize him? Do you think that he still had the same tendencies? You're right, Twizzle. You're right. There's a lot of functioning addicts. You're right. I've known some heroin addicts that were functioning, but once they couldn't get their heroin or any kind of opiate, man, they were dope sick and they couldn't really function. I'm just asking because of the family dynamic. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to figure out, not really figure out, but I was thinking about families today and how they're affected by trauma of finding their loved one either being involved potentially in a crime. Because there are some families that know who the killer is. There's no doubt. They've left things at the crime scene. They've been caught on camera. They've gone through trial. They've been convicted, so they know who their killer, who their loved one's killer is. So after the live that I did last night, it just got me to thinking, man, how these families, how they get through every day, just knowing that their family member was brutally taken from them. And since we talk about the Idaho 4 case a lot, that's why I'm talking about Brian. Only reason. No other reason whatsoever. Because I'm trying to figure out, I wonder if his family was supportive of his struggles, or if they were that kind of family that kind of says, well, we don't care what you do, just don't do it here. Don't come to the house with that bull. Don't you come all messed up, or, don't you be stealing from us and this and that and the other. We don't care what you do, just don't do it here. You get what I'm saying? Because there are some families that are like that. We don't care what you do, just keep that out there, you know? And if that was the case, then, you know, he could have been out there and then, just trying to deal with that addiction all by himself. It's tragic when you get caught in an addiction. It's tragic whenever your life starts to change without you even realizing that you've fallen that deep into it. Because when it's fun, you know. When you're having a good time or you're enjoying the feeling of the drugs or whatever, man, it's fun. You don't want out. You enjoy every minute of it. But when it takes that turn and it turns on you, that's whenever that's whenever life really becomes really hardcore. Well, it was 10 years prior, but you know what? Your brain never does heal, Twizzle. I mean, it's kind of like you have um, irreversible damage done to your brain, to your heart, to your lungs. Your whole body suffers. So it could be 20 years and you still have damage from the time that you were doing the drugs. I'm just discussing about families affected by either their loved ones being taken out or the effects of drugs on them and things of that nature. Hey, Truth,
Hey, can you hear me?
I remember your real name, I think, but I'm not going to say it on here. But John used to say it all the time. Uh,
It's Rachel.
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought you were Rachel. I didn't know
Yeah,
it.
I've got the most Jewish of Jewish names.
I didn't know what the other person's name was. I didn't remember her name. But what do you think on what I'm talking about? I mean, do you think that there could have been irreversible damage even years later once he cleaned up?
Yeah, there's always going to be some damage. I was after I got shot in the carjacking,
Mm-hmm.
I became addicted to my breakthrough pain meds because they had me on 160 milligrams of OxyContin a day for about 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
and it it was a battle to to get over that. I've never been so sick and been through so much hell in my entire life. But yeah, it does change you.
It does change you. I mean,
See, that drug is made to numb pain, and when I say numb pain, I'm talking about all of it, even emotional pain, because
right.
everything your brain produces naturally to help you deal with that kind of stuff, the drug takes the place of that, and your brain forgets how to make that stuff. Dopamine,
Exactly.
adrenaline, it rewires your brain.
And it stops producing because we have the chemicals we have. I mean,
Now, I don't know what it's.
if
Now, I
you
don't, this gunshot happened when I was in my 30s, so I don't know how it would affect a still developing teenage brain. I mean, it
right,
might be completely different than me as an adult. You know what I mean?
of course, of course,
So, I mean, I can only tell you my experience, but I wasn't a teen when this happened. I was grown.
right. Well, I mean, the only reason that I'm bringing this up at all is because last night I did a live on how these family members were talking about their loved one being killed by this person, right? He was sentenced to 30 years. He got out in 11 for good time, and then he got out and started killing again. Well, he started his crime spree at 15 by shooting a store clerk, and then what he was sentenced to prison for was an 8-year-old sexual assault and murder. The girl was 8 years old. So the family members were still years later hearing them talk. It was almost like it happened yesterday. So I was wondering, you know, how these families that have to deal with all these high profile cases, how they make it through on a daily. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was on opiates for about 5 years because I was having a hard time getting off on them.
Mm-hmm.
I was having a hard time getting off of them because I had PTSD, so they were numbing other pains, and I didn't realize it that my ankle pain was horrible. Don't get me wrong, because my foot was almost blown off, but it was the emotional pain. It numbed the emotional pain. I didn't
Yeah,
even realize I was going through emotional pain until I got off of them. And
exactly.
see, and then I had to learn how to deal with my PTSD symptoms without drugs. So, now I'm strictly, marijuana, and that's it. That's what I use for medicine. I don't care. They've tried to put me on Xanax. They tried to put me on a bunch of other addictive medication, and I basically told them I wouldn't go in that route again because
Right.
I had no choice but to take the pain medicine when I got shot. It's not something I asked for. You know what I'm saying? So,
Mhm.
when I finally got free of that mess, and then all this stuff about fentanyl and the opiates blowing up and stuff, I really do feel like I've dodged a bullet. And for the sake of willpower, I was able to lay that shit down and never pick it up again. But
It's hard. It's hard, isn't
it
it?
is hard. It is hard. The first 14 days of being off of opiates is the most hell that you will probably ever go through in your entire life.
When I was probably in 2018, I hyperextended my knee. I was being stupid, and I was showing off for somebody, and I hyperextended my knee. Well, I went and got pain meds, and they weren't working because that's a pain like no other. I've never had that. And they finally, they gave me Tylenol 3 with codeine and tramadol and all that other stuff. Well, I was taking them around the clock, man. I wasn't eating, I wasn't doing anything but sleeping. Right? I
Well,
lost, I lost about 30 pounds.
yeah, you want to know why you lost all that weight?
Yeah,
Because you have a nerve in your stomach. It tells you when you're full and when you're not full, when you're when you're hungry and when you're not hungry. Well, when you're numbing that nerve, your brain don't know when you're hungry or not. Sometimes I would go 2 days without eating and not even realize I haven't ate anything.
wow,
So that's how it does it. I mean, it numbs that nerve in your stomach. That's why you lose so much weight when you're on opiates.
yeah. I mean, once I got off of them, it was the pain was, of going through the withdrawals and
And
having stuff.
Twizzle, oh,
Yeah,
sorry, Gage. I didn't. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, go ahead.
My computer's lagging. Twizzle, to answer your question, I was shot in 2012 by Reginald Mims. 14 days before he committed the Highland Inslee slaying, a quintuple execution home invasion. Then, when he was running from the police, he killed another person in a vehicular homicide, trying
Wow.
to get away. So, yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah.
He had my car keys and he had my registration of my car, so he knew where I lived, and he had my house keys. And when I got home from the hospital, I was laying in my bed with a sawed off Mossberg pump. shotgun. I had a 9mm and a pit bull in the bed with me because I didn't know if they were going to come finish the job.
Right. I mean,
Because
it sounded like it was self-defense.
he thought he shot me in the head when I rolled out of that car. He didn't know I survived.
Man, that's terrible. So, do you have full
If
use
you
of?
guys, if you guys want to look up that case, here it goes.
Do you have full use of your leg or your ankle where you got shot?
I can never run again. I will
Oh,
never be able to run as long as I live. That's why my PTSD is so bad. It's because
okay.
normal people have a fight or flight.
Yeah.
My brain knows I can't run, so my brain automatically goes into fight mode.
Right.
So it's been a battle because you know
So
everything that
here's the
goes
dumb.
along with
Here's
PTSD, with being aware of your surroundings or overly aware of your surroundings, and then not having an option of flight. It's all fight. So it's really bad.
Here's a dumb question for you. So, were you in a frozen shock phase?
Now, when I was attacked in my kitchen, 10 years before that, I was attacked in my kitchen by a two-time murderer, and I gutted him. Um, that instance didn't cause PTSD. I guess because I was able to get him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Revenge has a lot to do with PTSD.
Yeah.
When you feel like you've been cheated out of revenge or get back, that has a lot to do with PTSD.
Of course, because it's a constant reenactment in your brain when you get stimulated of any kind of stress or, annoyance or anger, you instantly want to fight. Like you said, there's no running involved
Yeah,
because,
so I mean that little bit just happening to me. In both instances, my life was in danger probably a total of 5 minutes. I cannot imagine what it's like for a soldier to live in a war zone. I can't.
I don't
I
know.
have so much respect for veterans since this shit happened to me because I wouldn't know what I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I had to live in a war zone for 8 months and feel like that all the time.
Yeah,
And
the
then
up
and then come and then come home and try to blend back into society like I haven't seen shit that most people haven't seen. You know, I have a lot of respect for veterans, and if you guys are a veteran, more God bless you is all I can say.
Well, let me ask you this question, Truth. These families that lost loved ones, surely they have a sense of PTSD, right? Especially when they've heard of how they lost their loved ones. I'm not just talking about the Idaho 4. I'm talking about Cali
Yeah,
Rod, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. People, I mean, it's PTSD comes in a lot of different forms. I mean, you can have something happen to a loved one and be so vengeful and so revengeful. It's like that. Do you remember the Shannon Christian and the Newsom case where those two that couple was kidnapped and taken to that house and they found her in a trash can and
I
and
don't really recall that
they
one.
found him on the railroad tracks.
No.
Well, I know her dad had PTSD because you can watch interviews with that man and he looks like a devil's fixing to come out of him because he can't get his hands on the people who did it.
Right.
When he talks about her and the things about he misses about her, it just lock those people in the room with that man and let him get his get back. I mean, justice robs you of that,
Of course, of course.
and
So, so thinking about the Idaho 4, the mom, the Chapins, people always give that family hell for some reason. I don't get it. They give all the families hell but the Gonsalves family. And I don't understand that. Well, they get their share of hell from other people, but I don't understand traumatizing families after they've already had a sense of trauma.
Yeah, Nikki, that's the case I'm talking about. That's the exact case I'm talking about. The one that they didn't want to talk about all over the news, but they exploited Trayvon Martin's death.
Yeah.
And yeah, that kind of pissed me off too.
It's
Because
like,
see, my case was a hate crime.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a hate crime. So
I mean, you're a victim of crime. You're a victim. You're a
yeah.
survivalist. You survived. So your insight on criminal is probably a little deeper than the normal person. I mean,
Well, I've always been fascinated with serial killers, always,
yeah, I
because I
remember
wanted to understand the psychology behind it. Um,
you didn't want to think, you weren't fascinated with the way they felt, right?
well, I know they don't have any feelings unless it pertains to themselves. And one thing I know about psychopaths and sociopaths, they get embarrassed when just about the only emotion they feel is when they get embarrassed, and it causes rage.
Okay.
They don't have much any other feeling besides not wanting to be embarrassed or found out
Right. So
that they're manipulative.
do you think that, like, whenever they try to blend in with everybody else, do you think that that's
The
part?
reason why I say that Trayvon Martin's case was exploited is because here you have a black victim and supposedly a white suspect, okay? But here you have there's countless white victims with black suspects that you never hear anything about. That's why I say is exploited for political reasons. It was exploited for political reasons. Yeah, I mean, nobody hardly heard about the Nashville case with the Newsom and Shannon Christian murders.
I mean, I'm
L.A.
just
Stay away from North Birmingham.
I've been through
Stay away from
been through
North
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Stay away from North Birmingham and stay away from Bessemer. Do not stop and get gas in either one of those cities or Inslee.
What's wrong with Birmingham?
Inslee's real bad.
Yeah, because I'm going to Foley in about 3 weeks. Gulf Shores.
Yeah. If I was you, I'd stop and get gas before you hit Birmingham city limits. And
I've
just
been through
stop.
Birmingham.
Yeah, just stop. Just stop before you get to Birmingham city limits in one of the little suburbs and get gas. I mean, you're 100% safer.
Yeah. So, whenever we, as a true crime community, and I'm saying we because that's who the population is in this community, is true crime pretty much. Um, do you believe that we're delusional when we view a crime, or do you think it's an illusion that we fixate our mind on? Do we get fixated on the illusion or the delusion of it?
I think a lot of people want to understand why somebody does something like that. I think that's what the fascination is.
Okay.
I mean, it's like it's like me. I'm in the medical field, and I'm so curious to read those autopsies or hear from the medical examiner and the forensics on the medical side,
Okay.
not the crime scene side, the medical side,
Right.
because I understand all of that. It'll be easy for me to follow. I can understand more about a crime by reading forensic autopsies and wounds than I can looking at the crime scene, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, it does. So, I mean, when you read an autopsy, you kind of, in your mind, you're the visual person that you can dive into the wording and kind of see exactly what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And and they say it was such overkill with one of the victims that they'll be able to tell when her heart stopped with those next stabs, whether those stab wounds bled very much. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So they'll be able to tell which was the kill blow. In other
I mean,
words,
in that case that you're talking about right now, I mean, I don't know if I would have went into cardiac arrest or whatever, just thinking that I was about to die. You know what I mean? The shock that your body has to go through every time that you realize what's going on to you, what's happening to you. Every thrust, every gouge, every whatever.
Twizzle, my best friend, is really good friends with the three people that died. With three of the people that died in those shootings that happened. That
Kentucky,
his one of his real good friends lost her mother, her son, and her sister during that drive-by shooting.
is that in Kentucky or
No, that's in Birmingham.
Oh, in Birmingham?
Yeah, it was a huge, like, couple of people. I mean, there was a couple of drive-by shootings and shot a lot of people up.
That's terrible.
Yeah, they were having their birthday parties.
That's terrible. It's not even safe to be at a birthday party, it sounds like, anymore. This is just my opinion. I feel that, I'm not anti gun, but I feel that if you're caught with a gun, either attempting to commit a crime or you actually commit a crime, I believe that it should be harsher on you than most people. I
Well,
mean,
you know what they should do? They should make it a law that if you are caught with a gun and that handgun is not, I'm not talking about rifles, because I believe people should be able to own semi-automatic rifles. I just do. But as far as handguns go, I believe they should make it a law that if you're caught with a handgun and it's not registered to you, you lose your driver's license for a year. I mean,
criminals don't care about driver
not only that, but jail time.
jail time. I mean, there has to be some kind of consequence.
Yeah, I mean,
For
losing a
juvenile,
driver's
for,
license in Alabama is a big deal. We don't have mass transit here.
for juveniles as well, because there's a lot of juveniles on these streets that are carrying stolen guns. They break in the car, they steal their guns, and they go shooting up each other's houses. And good thing they're a bad aim, for now.
Well, I'm talking about like handguns. I think everybody's handgun should be registered. That way you can report it stolen and I mean, you can do all that now, I know, but I mean, it just seems like there's got to be a better way. I'm not against guns at all. At all. I wished I would have had one the day I got carjacked.
The only reason gun owners don't want their guns registered is it's another way for the government to control your.
I know. With every little implication you want to add, it's a slippery slope, and I understand that.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't want anything to happen to a Second Amendment because if I would have been armed in that car that day that I was carjacked and I was able to defend myself, well, number one, I don't. If I would have had that gun laying in my lap, I don't think I would have been able to get my hands on it in time because he was in my car by the time I heard my door handle click. So, but I would have been able to pop off some shots on the way out of that door.
But you're right. As far as home protection, a shotgun's where you need to go. I
And
mean,
I have to beat myself up. I beat myself up all the time because I feel like I could have stopped 5 people or 6 people from getting killed if I would have been armed that day when he did that to me. And the survivor's guilt is just as bad as PTSD.
Exactly. Exactly. But you're a survivor, so you should not hold any kind of regret over that, Rachel. I mean, you know, you could have been a victim yourself, worse off. You could have been another statistic.
Well, you know what? Typically unique. It's it would be hard to do that. To the
Criminals aren't going to follow the laws. I
Yeah,
mean,
criminals will never follow the laws, and they've been selling guns in this country for so long that they would, how would you ever implement that?
hmm
And it make an effect. I mean, everybody who's not supposed to have guns has them.
it's sad that teachers have to worry about that when they're conducting their job and everything that goes along with it. I mean, it's to be a teacher these days is, man, that's an act of heroism. If
Yeah,
I
hell,
was
I remember,
a
when I went to school, they would have never thought to put metal detectors and shit at the doors. It's horrible.
no,
And I believe all this started with, and people might get mad at me. I love rap music. I can, I have enough sense to where I can apply it to a legit hustle. You
right,
know what I mean? So,
right,
but see, kids don't know to apply it to a legit hustle, so they idolize it and they think
right,
they're supposed to be gangsters. And you look at the '90s. You look at the '80s and '90s when the crack epidemic happened. There
yeah,
was a lot of kids that didn't have any fucking parents. There was a lot of kids that ended up with parents on dope and nobody to raise them. Who raised them? Rap music.
right. No need to
You
apologize.
know,
Unique.
it,
You're good. Everything is your feelings and your thoughts are
and
valid.
and
Don't
this this
apologize.
this goes for any race, because rap is not only listened to by a certain group of people.
Right, right.
It was the popular thing. Everybody was listening to it, and if you don't have, if you have two parents that are on drugs, and that's
Yeah.
what you're going to relate to. That's what you're going to grow up in.
Well, also, you're talking about that. We had kids that had pickups with gun racks and rifles and all kinds of stuff in their trucks. Not one of those rifles ever jumped
I
off the wall.
remember I remember going to high
Shot
school,
up,
and
bro.
it was cool for a dude to have his deer rifle hanging in the back of his window,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
and
saying.
it didn't have to worry about it getting stolen.
No.
So, I mean, times have just changed.
I work with juveniles. I did a class today with some juveniles, and their thinking is totally. I don't even know where they get the belief system they get other than online. Because they believe that each and every one of them, instead of getting a career, they all want to do things that are going to get them instantaneous fame and money. And you know as well as I do, that's not realistic.
No, it's not.
They all want to be athletes. They all want to be, this, that, and the other. But there's nothing wrong with chasing dreams. I'm not a dream killer, okay? There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be realistic. If you're not built for that,
Well, it's like me. I wanted to be a surgeon, but I knew I sucked at math. So I got into physical therapy. I got my massage therapy license, my physical therapy degree, and I also have a degree in physiology. So, I couldn't be a surgeon because I couldn't math. If you're going to be a surgeon, you have to know how to math.
I wanted to go into the medical field, but I could not pass anatomy and physiology and microbiology. I took them 3 times, and I thought, 3 times I failed them. There's no way.
I
There's
was
no.
good at all that stuff. I just sucked at math.
Yeah, I don't know. We all have our path
You know
destined.
what they should do?
What?
They need to get rid of Algebra 2 and teach these kids financial classes
True.
on retirement and savings and building equity and stocks portfolio. They need to do a miniature financial program for these high school kids so they can learn how to get their retirement in order when they get started.
Right. Exactly.
Just get
I
rid
mean,
of Algebra 2. Just get rid of Algebra 2. Who fucking needs that shit? I mean, what a waste of time.
well, I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. So one man's strength is another person's weakness. So hopefully they can find a balance in everything they
Well,
need to
I've never needed
succeed
to,
in life.
in real life, all I've ever needed is multiplication, adding, subtracting, and division. I've never needed the advanced shit.
Well, if you would have been in the medical field, like you said,
I would have needed it. I know.
yeah, you would have needed it because you're measuring all this stuff. It's like you give a person too much medicine, boy. That's it.
Right.
Oh no, I thought that was 1 plus 1. Oh damn! Wake up! Wake up!
Hey, my friend's an anesthesiologist, and the math that lady has to do, absolutely not.
Right.
We were
Yeah.
sitting there at lunch one day, and she said, "Rachel, you have no idea how close to death we take you on that surgical table." She said, "You have no idea, and if you did, you would probably never get surgery again."
I mean, there has to be something to it because they tell you count back from 99 or from 100 to 1, and you go 199, and bam! Next thing you know, 3 hours later, you're still groggy as hell when they're waking you up. You know.
Yeah, but to get back to this Brian Koberger thing, I think he knew that he was emotionally null and void before he got on drugs. I think he got on drugs because it was probably the first time he ever felt something. You know what I mean?
But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. If he wasn't that type of individual, okay, if he wasn't that withdrawn looking individual, very solemn looking, and he was the other way, he was an extrovert and he was, you know, very talkative and all this other stuff, do you think people would believe he would have been a killer then? Let's say he had the personality of Ted Bundy.
Well, wait a minute. Listen. Okay. Do you think he would have turned to killing if he would have had some real friends in his life? Is that what you mean?
No, I'm talking about his personality. If he had the ability to be a charmer like Ted Bundy and to be a chameleon and all that, do you believe that allegedly he would have done what he's suspected of doing?
I believe he would have.
Okay.
You just don't go out and do that to four people on a whim. He had been thinking about doing that for a long time.
Do you believe that there was other potential victims? He just they drew the unlucky.
Well, when people say the house was a target, I think the house was a target because it didn't have any security cams on it. It
Okay.
had it had a cut through the woods right there where you couldn't be seen. I think that's the reason why the house was a target. I think first he noticed the girls, and then I think he went and checked out where they lived and go, I could do
I
that.
got I got thinking about it too. There's other ways that you can learn about a house and who lived there and everything else by students. I mean,
Well, it's
he
not
would
only that, Gage. A lot
you
of
know
people, well, how did he make his way through that house and know where he was going? And all of the videos that they posted on TikTok. And then all you have to do is go to the county and look up the blueprints for that house. It's not that hard.
well,
It's
that's true.
it's it's open information.
And even in that one website that I did a stream on, and they even let you turn the lights off. I don't know if they let you do that before, but people can actually see what the house looks like in the dark.
I can see real good in the dark, but then again, I worked in a dim room for a long time, and my eyes are just adjusted to it.
I just don't know. I don't know. That's why I stay in the middle, because there's some days that I want to say he's innocent, and some days I want to say he's guilty. I mean, it's like I just don't know. I don't know.
I think he's guilty, and there's a lot of reasons why I think he's guilty. When you look at the other suspects or supposed suspects that people have brought up that could be suspects or potential suspects, who's the best suspect out of the bunch that had training in not carrying DNA in with him into a crime scene or carrying out any DNA with him, leaving a crime scene? The
Well,
only
I'm
person,
taking
the
those courses.
only, the only person with training in that field is Brian.
I'm taking those courses now, and I'm almost done with them with a bachelor's. Okay, when do they teach you that? That's what I want to know, because I want to
We
be able.
looked up. We looked up. Diane and all of us. Well, me and Diane, but biology 101.
Uh huh.
She's a teacher. She looked
Okay.
up his entire curriculum and what he studied, and she said, "Yeah, he was trained. They
Well,
had
how do
those
you not
suits.
leave DNA? What? How did they suggest it?
Do what?
How did they suggest that you not leave your DNA? What did they have to do?
No, they had. He had went through like mock mock crime scenes and shit.
Well, of course, but if you're being taught how to look for DNA, are they going to teach you how not to leave your DNA?
They have to. If you're going to be a part of CSI, you've got to know how to walk into a crime scene and then walk out without taking any with you.
Well, how
And
did they did they did
protective
they
gear,
give
and all
any
that
did
mess.
they give any insight on how not to leave your DNA?
Well, I mean, that wouldn't be hard to do. I mean, it wouldn't hard. If you have any slight bit of intelligence, you know how to get away with not leaving DNA at a crime scene. You cover yourself as much as you can with protective gear.
Well, of course. Then you look like the kid on a Christmas story walking down the street.
No, you want to imagine it does, but you got to think about it. If you was to stand there in a pair of Dickies coveralls and somebody took a 5 gallon bucket of blood, let's just say 5 gallon bucket of blood, and threw it at you and drenched you in it, you would in 8 minutes you'd be able to take those Dickies coveralls off and peel off, and you wouldn't have any blood on you. I mean, and I wouldn't say that if I didn't grow up in a butcher shop in a meat department. My dad was a butcher for 47 years. I've seen cattle get slaughtered, and the dude cutting their neck barely get a drop on him. And
Well,
when they
look,
slaughter
look.
a cow, gallons gush out.
Well, of course. Well, let me ask you this though. You got bushy eyebrows. I got bushy eyebrows. What are the odds that your eyebrow does not shed? An eyebrow hair does not.
But the thing about it is, Gage, they have to find that eyebrow. You know what I'm saying? So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
was he wearing a hat? Was he wearing a beanie?
I think he was wearing one of those poo shiesty masks. You know those that's got the it only shows your eyes really,
Okay.
and
Well,
it
she
and
said she said it was a. I mean, everybody that I've ever heard discuss this said it was a COVID mask. I mean, I don't
I
see it.
think he was more like in a poo shiesty mask. Those that cover
Yeah,
your whole head, they
yeah.
cover your whole head and your nose, a portion
Well,
of your
that
nose.
makes sense. That makes sense.
I think he was wearing one of those. And another thing, they said they found like blood stains on his pillow. And somebody said, "Well, how would he get bloodstains on his pillow. Well, you know, if you're stabbing the shit out of somebody and you got cast off going on the ceiling, some of those drops are liable to come back down and hit you in the top of the head.
Right.
You know, and that plasma from that blood is liable to seep through that cloth
Well,
that's on the top of your head
people
because
don't believe it.
you don't have insulated Dickies coveralls on your head. You know what I'm saying?
Well, people don't believe that blood turns rust colored when it dries.
Yeah,
They
it
believe
does.
it stays red.
It turns brown, and the longer it sits there, it'll turn black.
And blood isn't even red in the body, right?
I believe he's guilty, and I believe he's guilty because of his training, the shit he's got in, this awkwardness around women, the psychology, all of it. I just can't find a better suspect than Brian.
I mean, to be fair to everybody in the chat and every other chat on YouTube crime community, if y'all pass this along, any of us have the capability of being a serial killer. Any of us. And if you don't think so, how many times have you been so angry that you blacked out, or as people say, they see red and they don't know what they're doing until later on when they calm down? Each and every one of us is born with that instinct.
Yeah, people don't understand that instinct until they actually experience it.
Right.
Well, you know, when you was talking about frozen shock phase, now when I was in the car, yeah, I experienced frozen shock phase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm 5 feet tall, I weigh 125 pounds, and there was such a weight on my shoulders when I was in when I was in frozen shock phase, and I had that gun pressed to my head that I don't think a Mack truck could have moved me. I'm so serious when I say that.
Yeah. I mean,
Because your
imagine.
brain gets stuck between fight or flight because it's, well, if I try to run he's going to shoot me, but if I sit here he's going to try to shoot me. And your brain is at a crossroad looking at a fork in the road, and there's death on each road. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
facing death each, whether you decide to run or whether you decide to sit there. So yeah, it's a frozen shock phase is real. There was a case, I forgot which case it was, but it's on one of these shows where the killer speaks. I think it's what it's called, is
Right.
the killer speaks. This one dude went in and shot up this whole family, and the little girl survived, but the only reason she survived is because she jumped in the bed and pretended she was asleep. And she laid there so long, she actually did fall asleep after she knew her family had been killed.
I remember that case. Yeah.
And she fell asleep for us. She didn't wake up until the sun was coming up in the morning.
Right.
And she was still in such a state of mind to where when the cops showed up, they had a small little farm going on. And he asked that little girl, he said, I mean, she wasn't but about 9 or 10 years old, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He asked her, you know, what do you need to help me to do? She says, I have to feed my animals. That's my chore in the morning. Now, you know, your whole family just got shot. Well, if, you know, people would say that was weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that had never experienced any of that. You know, people want to try to apply their sheltered brain to such violence. It's like, why would Brian make so many mistakes? You know, Ed Kemper had an IQ of 142. And he sat there on an interview in I think it was 1984, explaining all of the mistakes he made, you know, when he was doing what he was doing and how he should have been caught. You know,
You know what's surprising to me is when you have a high profile case, any of these cases, usually there's copycats. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know if there's been any that we just haven't heard about, but usually there's copycats from high profile cases. The Night Stalker. There
Yeah,
was
but with Brian, I think he knew he wasn't going to be able to go into law enforcement because of his past. Because law enforcement can look at your juvenile record.
oh, of course.
So I don't think he would. I think he knew he wouldn't been able to go into law enforcement, but that doesn't mean that he couldn't have taught criminal justice or, you know, crime scene this or crime scene that. He could have been a professor. And I
Yeah.
honestly believe he went and committed this crime because he planned on being a teacher and giving this unsolved crime to his students so he could relive that shit over and over and over again. And when he got bored, he would just go out and do it again. I honestly believe that.
But they say usually it's an increase in severity. Usually you don't start off with four people. Usually you start off small, and you escalate to bigger domains.
Well, that case I was talking about, that dude that went in and killed that little girl. If you watch that, he explains the high he got. Tommy
Oh,
Lynn Sales, Tommy Lynn Sales explained the high he got. He said, "I've done every drug in the world, but no drug in the world can touch what it feels like to watch the life fade from somebody's eyes and watch their pupils go blank."
I've heard that. I've heard that. I've heard serial
And
killers talk
with
about that.
with Brian being a ex-heroin addict, if he got enough charge off of killing the two girls upstairs and he wanted more, that's the reason to get the other two that was down there on his way out.
Well, I tried to bring up that angle, and people just laughed me out of the room. You
No,
know,
it's
so
it's it's true because that guy that was on that on When a Killer Speaks,
yeah, yeah, I've
he
seen that
he
episode.
explained the first two murders that he had gave him such a rush that he drove without the radio on for like 5 hours. He was on the highway and he had such a high. He said when that high started coming down, that's when he went into that next house and killed that whole family.
I mean, can you imagine if you have had a searching for an identity and you going through life, and then all of a sudden you do something like this, and it's almost like getting high for the first time with a needle or something of that. You it's such a rush that you chase that, and
Well,
you can never get the same high. You just
well, you can imagine the God complex that goes with being in the position of whether it's your choice whether someone lives or dies. It goes all into that. It's
I mean, my whole thing is I've watched a lot of different murders documentaries, and even for the schooling I'm starting to watch different type of stuff. I just don't understand some of it, how you can be completely sane one moment and the next moment you're just killing somebody brutally. It's not like you're just strangling them. Like I heard today, there was this guy that started dating this girl. She was like 19, I guess, and he was like 23, 24. Well, anyways, he had just gotten out of prison, and they met on Facebook. They started talking, they started hanging out, they started, having enjoying each other's company. And then one day she broke it off. Well, come to find out that she wasn't a she was a he. And he picked her up one day walking, and he took her out to, sexually assault her because according to him they'd never been intimate like that. And when they were messing around, he figured, he found out that she wasn't a she and she was a he. And he lost it. He says he tased her, and then he started beating her, and then he stabbed her, and she wouldn't die, and so he grabbed the claw hammer and he beat her to death.
Damn.
Right. How does it go from 0 to 150?
Well, I don't know, but I don't think transgenders should be lying about their gender to anybody, especially when it comes to dating.
Well,
And and I
supposedly,
and I mean that.
supposedly the family said that they had been intimate before.
I'm gay. Do you know how pissed off I would be if I picked up a male to female transgender and took her home?
I don't know.
Just as pissed as you would be, probably.
Yeah.
You know, I just I don't think they should be lying to people. It's okay if you want to be another gender and everything, but when it comes to dating, you need to let that person know.
Right. I don't know what they're talking about in chat. They're going all over the place.
They're talking about true quilters.
Quilters. I saw that, but I'm like, quilters? What are they talking about? Quilters? What? Where did that come from? Who introduced that?
In a lot of these transgenders that get murdered, they're murdered because they're lying about their gender and they get found out. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you think about it.
Nobody deserved to
There's
be
a lot
murdered.
of women out there that
Nobody
been taking their
deserved to be
makeup.
there.
There's
Nobody deserved to be murdered for no reason.
there's no, there shouldn't be, and I'm not saying they should be. I'm just
Right.
explaining the reason why that happens. And I just think honesty is the best policy when it comes to dating.
Exactly.
You know, and that goes across the board. It doesn't matter who you are, who you're dating. You know,
Y'all calling me a quilter? I don't
you're
know how to. I'm a guilter. I've been called a guilter. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm in the
I'm
middle.
not saying it's right that it happens, but I can understand why it happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not right, and but that would be just
And
like a.
you got a
That
lot
would
of
be like you walking in.
Gage, you got a
Huh?
lot of dudes. You got a lot of dudes out here that are getting confused because some regular females are taking their makeup tips from drag queens. Everybody's wearing these damn lashes that are a mile fucking long that could swat a pterodactyl out of the sky. And you can't tell the difference between a dude dressed up and a chick dressed up anymore because they all look like drag queens.
Right. Well, I mean, and this one was, you could. She started dressing up, or he came out at 14. So if you watch that one, you'll see. I mean, I couldn't tell the difference. If I saw that person on the street, I'd be like, "Hey, that's a girl." And then somebody mentioned the Adam's apple. I don't know. I don't even want to go in there.
Well, they can get their Adam's apple shaved. They can get their brow ridge shaved down. They can get their jawline shaved down. But what they can never get shaved down is their collarbone and their joints. Men have a lot bigger joints than women.
Yeah.
If you pay attention to like wrist joints, fingers, hands, and there are some women out there with some big feet, but they're not like guys' big feet. You know what I mean? I mean, there's ways you can tell
I mean,
that
that
that that
facing that
surgery
facing
can't
a
that surgery can't help. And looking at the joints and looking at the collarbones, and because men have way bigger collarbones than women.
So, do you believe that Dylan, all that craziness that we're talking about her early on in the case,
Do what?
do you think Dylan is a woman?
Yeah, I think Dylan's a woman.
I agree with
I
you.
don't know why. I don't know why they would think that she's a man. If you look at her hands, She has petite female hands.
She does have some big feet though, but she's a tall
Well,
girl.
there's girls out there that's got big feet, but if you look at her hands, you can tell she's not a man.
Right.
Because hands that size on a man would their fingers would be a whole lot bigger. You can't. That's just something you can't change with surgery or hormones.
Yeah.
No surgery and no hormones are going to change your joint size ever.
Oh, Heather, how you doing? She said you can see her in swimsuits as a young child. She's a female.
Well, she has a female face too. She has a female face.
Yeah.
She don't have a guy jaw. I mean, she doesn't have a brow ridge.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming up on panel. I mean,
Yeah, let
I
somebody else
used to
come
watch
on.
you. I used to watch you on another show.
Yeah, you used to watch me on John's.
Have you talked to
I
him?
just like doing my little jokey one-liners.
Yeah. Listening to John, when he would talk about criminal activity and crimes, I learned a lot in the short time he was on. If he would have just stuck to that, I think it would have been very
Well,
enlightening for a lot of people.
we I think we all agreed, Gage, that people who blamed Dylan and Bethany needed to get their ass handed to them
Yeah,
because when you've got cops and this is a quadruple homicide, I mean, you don't think that they were interrogated? People don't think they were interrogated.
they don't. They think that they
I mean, people just
because
think,
the
oh,
family,
let your mommy take you home and we'll talk to you later. No, it
right?
didn't go like that.
It's because
I mean,
the consultant said some people were cleared too fast, so instantly people thought that was referring to Dylan and Bethany. That's where they got that.
well, now listen, Gage, during those autopsies, the medical examiner can tell what kind of force was used.
Of course, yeah.
And they can also say, I don't think a woman Dylan's size or Bethany's size could have inflicted these wounds. I don't think they were strong enough because it takes a lot of force to go through a sternum. It takes a shitload of force to go through a sternum.
You know
You
what?
don't
Based
know what
on
kind of wounds they had, so you don't know, what kind of. But the medical examiner can tell what kind of force was used and whether they think a female could have perpetrated that crime or not.
well, also, the height of the suspect. You're going to be able to tell where most of the wounds were based on the trajectory,
Trajectory,
yeah,
yes.
of the arm length and
And the
the
cast
height.
off, spatter, all of that can detect a suspect's height.
Yes, yes.
Um, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot more evidence that
The
he.
medical examiner can even tell if he was right or left-handed.
I've always said that. I've always said that,
They
and
can
people
tell by DNA transfer from victim to victim whether it was one suspect or not.
and people have called me crazy. They can even do X-rays and find out what kind of knife
Yeah,
fragment.
morphometric analysis of stab wounds by using the installation of contrast medium. They do that in forensic radiology. Plus, since the person is dead, they can turn those machines up and get real good pictures because they don't have to worry about radiology exposure to a dead person.
Well, I just hope that all the families, I mean, that's what I started talking about. I hope the families of any individual that's been affected by any criminal activity find a way to heal through the PTSD that
No,
may.
I think one man used one weapon.
What are you
Absolutely.
talking? What are you talking about?
So Nikki asked me, so you think one man used multiple weapons? No, I think one man used one weapon.
Oh.
They'll be able to tell by DNA transfer from victim to victim. It's like
Oh,
victim one's wound won't have any other DNA in it. Victim two will have victim one's DNA in their wounds. Victim three will have one and two, and then four will have one, two, and three in their wounds.
well, I had said in a live one time that I believe that maybe two weapons were taken in just in case one of them broke or
I
one of
don't
them.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, I don't really. I just was throwing that out there
Oh, I know.
because I know me. I do everything in twos. So if I'm buying clothes or buying shoes or anything, I'm buying in twos. So if I'm gonna commit a crime, I'm gonna take two weapons because I'm not certain. I don't trust the first one to do what I needed to do. So
Right, but that's a lot to keep up with when you don't have a belt and you don't have belt loops.
well, you know what? He could have had a strap like the runners wear to put the knife sheath in that.
No, I doubt it. He put that knife sheath in his pocket and it was 13 inches long. And when he squatted at the hips to stab those girls or to jump on top of that bed and pin them under that comforter,
But how are
with,
you going to
with
put
his
that
weight,
knife back in your pocket and not cut yourself or tear the Dickies
he
clothing or
had to,
whatever the hell he wore?
he had to take the sheath in with him because he didn't know if he was going to have to use two hands to get inside that house. He couldn't stick the blade between his teeth. He couldn't put it in his pocket for putting a hole in it. So he had to take the sheath with him. He didn't have a choice. He didn't have belt loops, on his Dickies overalls. So he
Yeah.
just put the sheath in his pocket. I think when he went upstairs, he jumped on top of that bed and just started stabbing. I really do. And I think when he bent at the hips to straddle those girls while they were under that blanket. I mean, think about it. If you're under a blanket and a 80-pound dog jumps up on the bed, how hard is it to pull the blanket out from under that dog? I mean, you're pretty much trapped. This man weighed 185 pounds. He jumps in the middle of that bed and straddles those girls. They can't go nowhere. They're pinned.
What if
They're
he weighed
absolutely pinned.
what if he weighed 186.5?
Well, he could. I don't know. But I'm just saying that's a lot of weight. I mean, they said that she was trapped. I mean, that's the only way I can think of. You're trapped. If she was cornered, she was cornered. They probably would have used the word cornered, but they said trapped.
Yeah.
So, if he jumped on that bed and like in one hoorah and tried to straddle both of them and start stabbing both of them while they were under that blanket, that knife sheath could have fell out of his pocket. He would have never known it till he was walking out or he got to the car. So
I don't know. I don't know.
that's another reason why I think he did it because they have the receipt for the Dickies coveralls that don't have belt loops. How did he drop a sheath? Well, he didn't have belt loops. Well, why did he carry a sheath? Because he had to. He didn't know if he was going to need two hands to get inside that house.
But you
It's
know what does have a belt loop? Those
what?
ha- those white hazmat suits.
Yeah.
Those
But
things
I
have
don't. But I don't know if you would want to
those
wear
things.
white in the middle of the night going to commit a crime where everybody can fucking spot your ass either.
Well, if you're taking it off, who gives a shit what color it is?
Well, I mean, I'm talking about seeing somebody on the way in.
There was lights lighting up the back porch. He was going to be seen one way or the other. You get what I'm saying? Those
Yeah,
lights, those lights were on.
I don't know. Decked out in all white in a hazmat suit, that might have drawn attention. A
Well,
little bit more attention than a pair of dark Dickies coveralls.
what if he spray painted them black?
What if the moon's purple?
What if he parachuted in and used his parachute to wipe everything out?
What if Koberger is really Kopaka?
What if? What if? What if? What if? I don't know.
What if they really were selling human meat at the grub truck?
Well,
Man,
what if you use?
these damn
What if he used the
conspiracies are
shower
going off
curtain
the
to
wall
cover it?
through
What
this
if he
case.
used the dirty
Y'all
ass
have to
shower
admit it.
curtain? What if
Y'all
he
ha-
used the dirty ass shower curtain to cover his car?
Man, y'all have to admit that there's been some wild ass conspiracies when it comes to this case. I mean some comical shit. I'm not kidding, Gage. I've cracked up. I do everything but get frustrated. I do. This is something to laugh at for me to laugh at
I
after work.
can't. I can't even stand those chats very long. I gotta leave. I can't. I can't do it. I start. I don't know. I start going in my head like this makes no sense, and you're confusing me, and I'm getting stressed out.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about those chat rooms where they start about the conspiracies with the wild theories. You know.
Heather, the Walmart receipt and the Dickies tag that was actually on the garment is on the search warrant invoice.
What if he was clad in black shower curtain, wearing bushy brows? Hey, that's a theory right there. What if they weren't really bushy eyebrows, but they were those eyelashes she mistook for eyebrows?
Oh yeah, he might have had some of those eyelash extensions or those fake eyelashes on that could swat a pterodactyl out of the sky.
Yeah, yeah.
He could have had those on. Uh, he wore his Groucho Marx sunglasses and fake nose when he went. And he took his cane, which was really a hideaway sword.
Hey, I heard that. Wait. I got one. The plumber from the U of I whacked Ethan Chapin with the wrench. I've heard that.
Oh yeah. That wasn't that some WSU Kim shit or
I guess. I don't know.
oh man, John caught that lady in so many lies. I
What
don't
if
know
you
how
throw the
anybody. I don't know
remote?
how anybody gave WSU Kim a platform to even speak. The bitch is a
Ethan
walking
Chapin, thank you with
contradiction
the
and a
girl.
lie. And she's a lie machine. She's a big ass lie machine. John caught her in so many lies.
Yeah. Well, she's going live. I think June 20th or something. To I don't know why. I mean, to debunk what? Are people still talking about her other than us tonight?
Oh, I don't know. That lady should be old news by now. All of this is really old news. I can't
Yeah,
wait
of
till
course,
trial. I
of
can't wait till
course.
trial because I think they have so much more on this dude. I do. I
The
think they have
shower
a
curtain.
whole lot more on him.
Hey, the shower curtain. That just cracks me up. Me and Jeff H. have went round and round with the shower curtain.
Well, the thing about it is, there's some people that are OCD that would never put a shower curtain in their shower because it retains moisture and mildew and all kinds of shit. So, I mean, if he was that OCD and he didn't have a shower curtain, that to me is not a big deal. I don't know if it's a big deal to anybody else in
Look,
chat,
every time I get out of the shower, I spray it
but
down.
that's not odd for somebody. That's not odd for somebody that's OCD.
Hey, every time I get out of the shower, spray it down with bleach spray and wipe it down, wash it out, spray it again, wipe it down, and clean it. Every time.
Well, I mean, if he was one of those people that are like a germaphobe, yeah, he would be cleaning a lot.
Well, they would have been able to see his cleaning ability. I mean, if they supposedly found a dog hair, and that is speculation, If they found a pet hair, I think it was a pet hair. Unless he had a cat.
Isn't that gonna be some shit if that dog hair busts his ass?
Yeah, if that was Murphy's
Because
dog hair.
a case like that happened where a dude got killed in his trailer, and they took his dog like over to like I don't know, to the next city over, and
Mm,
dumped the dog, just abandoned it, just dumped it, and that dog's nose print on the window and the dog hair convicted that dude that did it.
well, look at the Gilgo Beach killer, man. They found a part
His
of his,
wife's hair.
yeah, his wife's hair on the burlap sack.
Well, I don't think there's a woman in chat that will deny our ability to shed. I mean, my hair is down to my waist, and I have to maintain my tub, or it gets stopped up pretty quick.
Yeah, I just think after a particular point, we know what we know, and that's all we know. Everything else is just something that we hope either convicts or exonerates.
Well, I mean, as far as
Whatever
I see
side
it,
you're on, you know?
it's as far as I see this case, Brian Koberger, there's just not a better suspect. Plus, you got all the guilty shit that he did after the
Hey, do you
crime.
think the DoorDash is an informant?
Well, this is what I think about the DoorDash driver. You know, most people that work for DoorDash real late at night, they have dash cams,
Yeah,
and it wouldn't surprise me if during all that turning around, going in and out,
he caught
that
him on the dash cam.
yeah, he probably caught him on dash. Plus, it's so early. You know, it was so late or so early in the morning. I mean, if you're a car on the street and it's pretty, for lack of a better word, dead outside. I mean,
No pun intended.
you're gonna notice another car on the road. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So I mean, if he crossed paths with Brian at an intersection or a stop sign, or got him on that dash cam, or remembers seeing Brian without a mask on or anything in that car.
See, I had read about the informant very early on about some mom that lived in Pullman that her son went to U of I and they heard all this stuff about the murder and she had went to the tip line and left this big old tip and instantly I thought that was you know who. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Wouldn't that be the shit if she was the informant?
Hey, Twizzle Stick, you need to go check out a channel. I'm going to type the channel in the room, okay?
Is that who that was, Heather? Because I remember hearing about that very early on about some mom saying her son went to U of I and blah 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 blah.
Now, Twizzle Stick, this Oh for Fuck's Sake with Viviana channel, you need to visit her channel
Okay, thank you.
because she is from that area. She lives there. Viviana is not a moron, and she eats Jay Embry for breakfast.
Y'all crack me up, man.
She has handed Jay Embry his ass almost a dozen times already, and she'll hand you your ass too. Twizzle, go toe to toe with Viviana, okay?
Wow. You might have to go to Sarge's panel tonight because your ass is hurting, you know?
It's just Twizzle wants to be on the free Koberger kick for some reason, and there's nothing wrong with you thinking he's innocent. But when this dude is convicted, I don't want to hear any bullshit.
Well, I'm waiting to the day that we actually have a trial and, all this is over and we can move on with a different.
There's not any murders in Moscow for 7 years until fucking Brian shows up. You know, there's just so much about this case. It's just,
Hey, whatever happened?
coincidence
Whatever
after
happened to that dude
after
that was firing
coincidence. I
off his
mean,
gun?
how many coincidences does there that do you have to notice until you figure, hell, this shit's not a coincidence anymore?
Whatever happened to that dude that they caught firing off a gun downtown or something, Twizzle, in Moscow? Did they just let him go, or it was like way after the murders? I think it was like in 2023. Some dude was shooting off a gun in Moscow. I don't know. There's some weird shit in Idaho for sure, just like in Hendersonville, Tennessee, or wherever the hell that is. Man, there's something going on in that state or that city every day, it seems like. But on that,
I've been getting on this investigating. Well, not really investigating, but just for something to do, looking into it.
mhm,
Occupying my time with it. How many kids that are suspected stranger abductions in the United States, and it is insane.
yeah,
There's kids that get stole by one or the other parent or a family member. I'm not talking about those cases. I'm talking about stranger abductions,
right, right.
and it's bad.
I mean, kids are being lured left and right. I mean, stranger danger is a real thing.
And your kids, walking in pairs or walking in like a group of three is not going to save them anymore.
Hell no, they'll take all three.
It used to be a safety thing when we were younger. Go with your brother, or y'all make sure y'all are together when you go from one house to another. I mean, you can't do that anymore.
What do you want explained? Oh, you're talking about
But
Twiz.
I'm gonna jump off of here, and I'm gonna let Jeff jump on, or somebody else jump on.
No, I'm about to cut this off because I'm tired of talking. I got to go do some stuff. Thank you for being up here. Um, thank you guys for being in chat and keeping the chat rolling. I like to see it rolling like that. Um, like I said, my purpose to jump on here tonight was not necessarily to talk about the Idaho 4 case, but just to talk about the families that are affected by all these cases, because you never know when you're going to be so close to a crime that it's going to affect you. And sometimes you just don't know how to handle it. Sometimes you don't know how to process grief. And instead of feeling all alone, just know that you got to find some sort of support through it. You can't deal with it alone. You should have more guilters on panel. Well, Jeff, if he was in here, he's my fellow guilter. I've been called a guilter. I don't know what the hell that means, but whatever. Toad, are you a guilter? Are you a pro burger? What are you? I mean, I've never heard your side, your theory. Quilters? Well, anyways, I wanted to, like I said, just get up here and talk about how um, oh yeah. So me and Carlos are guilters. uh, yeah, I mean, I'm the type of person that even after the trial, even if he's guilty or innocent, I'm still gonna be like, damn, none of it makes sense. So unless they have a really compelling case to really prove one way or the other, and it just if it's more circumstantial than real life evidence, where they can really make a story that makes it sound one way or the other, I'm gonna stay down the middle because At this point, most of the stuff is circumstantial, and that's why it's so interesting to people. Well, anyways, thank you guys for being in chat. I hope y'all have a good night and you're having a great week so far. One more day down. Tomorrow's hump day. Y'all be great. I'm going to have the maestro cue the music. Y'all do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out if you haven't already. And if you're new here, subscribe if you enjoy the content. There's plenty of content, earlier content about forensic type stuff in my library. If you haven't checked it out yet, why don't you go take a look around? Most of it's under the live button. The stuff that's under videos, it was uploaded stuff in the very beginning. So some of the evidence type stuff is in the live. I talk about the tire imprints and all kinds of stuff like that. So why don't y'all go check it out? Let me know what you think. Y'all have a good night. I'm out of here.